Hey gang, hi, it's Marcia O'Connor again, CEO and founder of the O'Connor Group, where we provide outsourced HR, outsourced recruiting services. And so good to, well, I can't really see any of you, but I hope you're here with us today. We're here to talk about HR, and obviously I've got questions that I so kindly put into the category for me. So I'm going to pop them up and go through one by one. So feel free to say hello through the session here. And the first one is from Quade Sturdy. Hello, Quade. How do you gauge which tasks or skills you should learn or delegate? And the background of this is I am the most effective and in-depth construction company on the planet. You go. I intend to have divisions in every avenue of construction. This entails having our team involved in the start of the process to the end, manufacturing to installation. I need to build a team to accomplish this. However, I am solo right now and wonder how I could choose which task I could learn and which I could delay until I have a larger structure. So obviously that's one of the one key things. When you become an owner, it is really hard to basically think that somebody else can do a better job than you. But if you really want to grow and scale, you're going to have to perfect the world of delegation. And you know, when I first had started, it was actually giving away various projects or techniques that I was using with the clients and saying, I think you can manage this, I'm going to manage that. So number one, really good communication. Number two, write it down. You know what the expectations are of that person taking on those things, and to make sure that you feel comfortable that they're getting done. Have weekly conversations with them. You know, hey, I saw that this week you're supposed to work on this and this. How did it go? Just keep me copied on things until you get that trust factor. And once you get that trust factor, you probably won't need to be copied much anymore. But because it's your baby, you want to make sure that you know exactly what they're doing and that you're approachable too to ask kind of questions, because you want that person to look good. They're representing you. But you have to start. And so start writing it down, figuring out what they're going to be doing, what you're doing, have weekly conversations with them, and just get started. Because the more you delegate out there, the more you're going to be able to work on your company instead of inside your company. Okay. Quade had another question. So how do you remain patient with your goals? Whew, that's a tough one. So let's get a little background. Quade is the most effective and in-depth construction company on the planet. He is curious about the methods people use to remain patient and focus on goals. He wants to accomplish a lot with his company. However, his mind wants to get it all done by tomorrow. I feel like my sense of urgency is what drives me to always improve. On the flip side, I may be doing myself a disservice by being so scattered. Well, welcome to being an entrepreneur, Quade. And ironically, we're all like that. And I think the biggest thing is I'm a big believer in vision boards, in writing something down, and basically then having it in front of you 24/7 actually, and saying this is where I'm going to go. But like my team sometimes will say to me, hey, I want to bring in $200,000 in sales. And I just look at them and say, that's awesome. How are you going to get there? And then they'll say to me, well, you know what? I have enough networks, and I will figure if I can keep calling these people, I'll get it. I'm like, not good enough. That 200,000 has to be broken down by month, by week, by day, of what it's going to take for you to even get that amount per month. How many calls does that take? What's that look like? How do you measure that? Figuring out of 10 calls, how many of them typically are a yes? Maybe it's 2 out of 10. You got to capture that and put that down as to this is how many calls you have to do per month in order to get what you want per day. And the more repetition and consistency that you have, the more likelihood you're going to hit these goals. But you have to make sure that you really pay attention and that you just don't overlook it. It's like getting that credit card in the mail sometimes, and you don't want to look at it, so you'll just shove it under the other bills like it's going to go away, kind of a thing. So to me, it's like you've got to be real about your goals. You got to make sure that they're achievable, but you have to make sure it's something that you're going to be proud of. But make sure you keep writing it down. I still have all of my annual revenues. I've been in business 15 years now, and I still have all of them written every year in my end year goal. But I have my budgeted and I have my actual. And I do that on purpose so that I constantly remind myself of where I'm at. But we're at a point now where we use a system called EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, where it's a platform that everything that we do is tied together and it's measured so that we can all see where we all play a part in it. And to be honest with you, it's really helped me. You have to find your own formula. There's scaling up out there, there's EOS, there's just like having spreadsheets. But you got to figure out some kind of system that's going to keep you, like I said, focused and consistent. Okay? I hope that helps. Up! Quaid's on a roll today. He has 3 questions in here. Are side hustles a distraction? I keep doing market research on tasks outside my regular scope. I'm okay with this as I love to learn. However, countless mentors preach to focus on a niche. I am bad at this, as I consider my niche to be entire building assemblies. How do you choose a set? Now, when I first got started, I knew that I was really good at retained search. Now, I didn't want to do retained search because it's a longer process. I liked faster decisions. But, when people met with me, I would say, hey, we do these 3 things. And I did that on purpose. And ironically enough, I was like, retained search, we help out recruiting strategy, we do this. And it came to the part where people knew what we did. And even though I would change that conversation around to help them on a bigger scale, like what we do now, we really focused on both talent acquisition and HR. And listen, my team has given me a zillion ideas over the years. And my mentors, too, have said to me, that's great, but focus, focus, focus. So they've even told me at one time, what do you want to focus on, your talent or your HR? And I come back to them saying, well, I actually need them both. And let me tell you why. I do both because during a good economy or a bad economy, I can rely on the other, and they sort of complement each other, so it's like a scale. And when HR is really high, typically like recruiting is like right here, and when recruiting is really high, HR is here. So they sort of outweigh each other. For example, during COVID, a lot of recruiting got shut off. But my HR was really strong because people didn't know the compliance, they didn't understand the new laws, the regulations. So I had a lot of people moving to the HR side of the house. Thank God I had that because that revenue coming in was helping pay for the recruiting team and vice versa. I had times where HR wasn't really needed and people weren't really bringing people on board. And recruiting was like crazy busy. So that group then took care of the HR. Now, I wouldn't recommend more than 2 to 3 areas because each one needs its own little, usually P&L, profit and loss statement, and you want to make sure the expenses and all go towards that so you know how much you're really making. But I really do believe in niches because of the fact that people will know you and really think, oh my God, they're great. They do wonderful flowers for weddings, and they are known for weddings, and that's where you want to go. Now, it's harder because you think you're missing out on all this other profits and work coming in, but people want to know what you do, and they kind of believe in you. They're going to refer you because they know exactly what you do. Don't become a little bit of everything because then typically you're a bit of nothing. So definitely 1, 2, or 3. Okay, hope that helps. And Quaid's on a roll, man. Here he goes. Actually, I think most of this is all Quaid today. I love it. How do you approach the psychology of raises? I am the leader. I would like to give my team a clear outline for each position and show which steps they can take to get a raise. I am unsure if this would be done by attaching percentage raises for the time with company, money raises for each additional responsibility. However, I don't want it to be a double-edged sword where they feel capped for growth. So I think it comes down to create what position you're talking about. Now, keep in mind, next year's going to be a very unique year. Right now, from what I'm hearing, the average increase next year for a lot of salaried position is between 4.5 and 5%. Typically, it's been about 2 to 3%. And because of this great resignation that we're in right now, I think a lot more people are a little bit up as to, I'm going to have to up my salary. Now, for smaller companies, too, that don't have the money to do that, you can offer other things, such as an extra day off for vacation, or more flexible hours, or maybe adding an extra holiday. Things like that, people like a lot as well. You might want to just ask your team, what are you seeing down the road? Where do you see in regards to growth? As your position to be aligned to basically compensation. Now, here at the O'Connor Group, we do bonuses quarterly. And we actually have a document we put together that has a numerical rating to it that ties into how did the company do that quarter as a team. Did it hit it? That's 100%. How was your individual goals that you basically projected for the past 3 months? Did you hit all of them? How are you using the core values? Are they showing them and expressing them here? And all those different things we put into play. And you know what? It really works for my team, because my people who work overtime, they get more money in their bonuses, because it's my way of saying thank you. And you got to keep in mind, there's not as many people doing overtime right now either. Even if there's money involved, they really want a quality life. And that new generation coming out is letting us know that very clearly. So be very careful about what you do offer. I can tell you in regards to like medical benefits and all, don't always worry about having the cream of the crop benefit plan, because guess what? It's only going up in price. But you can offer other things that won't cost you as much. So there's many things that you can do out there, and celebrations, or maybe having lunches, or like I said, extra salary days off, things like that. We actually added a thing called family days, and family days is in addition to their PTO and paid time off. And what we do is, like, the idea is it's up to 8 hours per quarter. So use it or lose it, and you have to spend it with your family. It could be your parents, it could be friends, whatever, but the idea is, like, take off the day and mentally recharge. And people love it if they remember it, but we try to remind them as much as possible, okay? Next question. How do you balance honesty and giving out too much? I hear you. So here's how I do it. I've done this long enough now to know it's all how you deliver the message. And you want to make sure, really think through your head how that person's going to receive that message. Some people take it very well. Some people don't take it very well. But you want to make sure that it's received positively with constructive information in there, so that they feel as if like you've listened and you've taken care, and you're giving them an alley of how to get to that next level in their lives. And to saying, hey, I don't think you're ready here, but this is what I do think you should have, and let me help you get there. And if people really appreciate that, but be honest. Don't be making things up that aren't true. Again, it really is how you deliver that message. It takes a little time to get used to. Don't get it so emotional where you're seeing your face and your cheeks get red and all too, because that can happen. You just want to be like, hey, I think you're a valuable piece of this organization, and this is what I'm seeing from you, and I know you want to get here, but I think this is missing. And you know what? There are some options that you could do to get there better. One of them, to be honest with you, because you don't have a lot of money, YouTube. A lot of great videos out there to help them to get to that next level and have that initiative and have that drive. And that's the beautiful thing. And then you know what? One thing I've learned, like, don't try to make it fit if it doesn't fit. And sometimes people, they'll never just, you can bring a horse to the water all you want, and if that horse doesn't drink it, there's really nothing you can do. You can't fix people. They have to fix themselves. So be very clear about that, because it's so critical. Every person that you bring aboard your team, you really make sure they really understand, what's happening, what's missing, and where their growth is. But practice it and go over it. Practice it with a friend of yours too. To say how would you react, because it's never going to be 100% perfect. But you really want to make sure that you're honest, but not so blunt that basically you make somebody feel really bad, because that's not the intent here at all. Okay. Next question's from Jenny. Hello, Jenny. What takes priority in spending wisely for growth and sales starting out as a full-time business owner? And here's some background. I'm a full-time entrepreneur and focused on growing my yin, yoga, and sound healing business. With limited funds as I am starting out, I need guidance on how best to invest in the growth of my business. Zen soul balance. With the holidays just around the corner, I want to capitalize on opportunities by offering unique experiences for groups and businesses in the San Diego area and beyond. My challenge is reaching a broader spectrum of people. I am reaching out to event planners, joining organizations, network as much as possible, and I also feel the need to advertise. What takes priority in spending? Online social media ads. I've tried this in the past and found it to be ineffective. What are your thoughts on this? Local newspaper, magazine ads for exposure, Groupon deals. Love to hear. Honestly, I like to see, who are your clients? Where are they from? Have you even asked your current clients right now, like, where are they at in social media? Are they Instagram people? Are they truly Facebook? Let me tell you something. So my church had a pierogi festival this past weekend. They had it every year. They're doing it for 40 years, right? And you know what? We always have it for 2 days, yada, yada. Well, this year they decided to put out a Facebook ad about, homemade pierogies, pierogi festival, come on about, blah, blah, blah. Guys, we had last weekend, there were 20,000 likes about the pierogi festival because there was a need, there was a demand, the word got out, people referred it, they shared it, because you don't see a lot of places anymore that has homemade cooked food, especially yummy food like pierogies. So we're like, okay, great, and I'm sitting there because I haven't been as involved. I've been traveling lots this fall, but I'm like, okay, that's 20,000 likes, and we only have 13,000 pierogies to sell. So I'm like, uh-oh. And lo and behold, as soon as we opened up at 12 o'clock, there was a line that was 4 blocks long from 12 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night. And I was helping to give out the waters and the sodas with the cashier, and I was like, hey, how'd you hear about us? And they said, Facebook. I said, wow. And I said, well, I guess it worked. So they had spent $500 on that ad, and obviously it worked almost too good. But you have to be sure, like, what's your audience? How are you going to attract them? Ask your current clients now, because you do want to make sure you're spending money to get the most bang for your bucks out of it. Might want to have like a referral process too, like, hey, refer a friend, or bring in a friend day, or bring in, hey, you're doing yoga, sound healing. Why not have like a cheese fest and bring like a cheese person come in, or a chocolatier come in and talking about chocolate to make it fun like that, and have it out there and do like a lot of these mom groups and all, because they're all looking for these fun ideas. But things like that, people want to hear about, and they want to see, and they want to learn, but try to figure out where they hang out. And lots of times it's TikTok right now, or Instagram. So really figure out those pieces first before you put money into all this, because it can add up, but you got to have a plan in place behind it, okay? But Facebook worked wonders for us last weekend. All right, Joe Nugent. How do I figure out how much I pay someone for a sales position that is salty plus commission? I own a home inspection. Of course, it's Joe, the Home Pro, a home inspection company. I'm adding an outside business development position, and I'm unsure how much I can afford to pay them with a salary plus a bonus. Well, you know what? It depends what you want. If it's based upon sales and all too, and you want that person to do really well, you know what? Then put a tally on it. Like, every here's your salary, here's your base, but you want them to be a little bit hungry, because if it's a really good salesperson, they're okay with a smaller base, and they know they can get more potential out of it. But as the owner, what you don't want to feel is, oh my God, this person's making more money than me. And you're either going to be okay with it or you're not. And a really successful person is going to feel that. So if you have a base of, say, 50,000, potentially, and then you want to have basically a bonus on top of that to say, and you could do it incremental. So if you bring in up to 250,000, you get this percentage. If you bring up to 500,000, you get this percentage. But you got to make sure, number one, it's very clear, and number two, you are true to your word. The last thing you want to do is say you're going to do all this, and then you don't pay on time, or things change. Nothing more gets a salesperson more ticked off by doing that. So you can do all that, but do an analysis first, and talk to people too in regards to like a professional services area that has salespeople, because it really. I had a friend of mine who has a clock company, and he has a sales team, and he said the base for their people probably about like 42 to 50, and he said, but we have a really good sales incentive program for the commission side. He goes, so they can make probably about almost up to 200K if they did their numbers in there. And he goes, my higher guys, they get it every year because they know what they're going after, they have it down to a science. He goes, and we don't cap it here, so they can get higher than that if they want, but it's hard to get to that level. And so it really depends what you want, but you really be careful about it, and make sure you do it. Make sure you talk to other people first about it. Make sure it works, and then make sure you're willing to pay it out after that happens. Because if you're not getting paid, and you have to pay these big commissions, you might want to tie it back to when you actually get the money in your bank account too. Okay? I hope that helps, Joe. Good luck. Jenny. Hello, Jenny. And how do I structure payment for traveling events? I'm a yoga teacher, sound practitioner, and have recently been asked to lead training and events outside my local area. How do you suggest I structure pricing? Thanks so much. By the way, you're all awesome. I'm so grateful for your support and guidance. And you are awesome too, Jenny. And thanks for just sending in messages like this. We appreciate it. You know what? Honestly, you put it part of your contract. That's what we do. And we'll put in there after so many, we put in there like anything round trip over 50 hours, because we look at 50 hours for us is pretty much a round trip going into the office. So anything after that, I pay my team for mileage. And so you want to make sure that's part of your contract, and just say travel to and from, and you might want to have a lump sum in there, or you might want to say we're going to add the mileage in there and all. But you definitely want to make sure all those pieces are paid back. Tolls, you might want to have definitely your mileage. You want to do whatever the federal government says is the average mileage amount, 57 cents a mile, something like that right now. But you want to make sure it's part of your contract. So when you see your invoice, that'll say services, and then training, travel and mileage, so that everything's accounted for. Because basically, it's all, when it comes in, the invoices, the cash amount, it gets allotted differently on your general ledger as well. So very simple. Just you got to do it. And don't be afraid to say, hey, things are happening. You know, I had a panel this morning, and we were talking about how expensive employee benefits are becoming, and they are, right? And one of the guys is working in the cargo trans world, and he was wondering, like, can I start adding on a 5% surcharge to my invoices to help me cover my benefits? And apparently in California, they're starting to do that. So honestly, I think you're going to see a lot more of that. Just like we saw during COVID, if you went out to a restaurant, you would see that COVID surcharge. That's starting to happen a lot more nowadays. Some clients aren't going to like doing that, but I do think it's going to become more of a common thing out there. Just be very clear with your clients. Let them know, like, listen, I'm just letting you know, here's per my contract, here's my rate for my services, but this is how much basically you're also paying for travel, and I'm going to be very clear of what that looks like. Okay? So again, more communication around it, but definitely can do that. Okay? And then Allison. All right. And how do you get leads to call or email you back about scheduling a call to discuss their needs, and how can you help them? It's a digital marketing agency. I've been running some great lead funnels for our business and have been flooded with leads. Unfortunately, I haven't had much success with getting these leads to email or call me back to schedule a complimentary 30-minute consultation. I clearly explained that we can schedule a time that benefits their needs. I even text them and leave a voicemail if I'm unable to catch them at a good time. People like to get something out of nothing. So lots of times, when I know a company is interested in me, or we've given them what we call a professional services agreement, and I haven't heard from them, I will go online and find a really cool article that I know intrigues them, they're interested, and I'm like, you know what, I know I'm waiting for an answer, but I thought you'd like to read this in the meantime. Or you say, hey, I saw this great recipe out there. Did you know this is happening in the area? Things like that, you're becoming a resource for them. And now that you have, think about it, you have now, I don't know if you have phone calls or you have emails here, but let me tell you, an email you could take and do so much with. You could start sending a newsletter to them. You could start basically putting things out there. So all those emails, no offense, guys, they are cha-ching. And you want to make sure that you somehow capture all of them, because the larger you become in the newsletters and all too, you don't have to write newsletters either. You can actually just have something simple. Hey guys, thought this article was good for you because this is what's happening out there. And being that subject matter expert, people will remember you and they remember your name. So you want to make sure that you're thinking outside the box there a little bit. Don't get disgruntled and all too, but you want to keep in mind, like, what else can I do as a resource? How else can I be helping them understanding why it's so important to use a group like myself? And so, believe it or not, we used to do an online group called Insightly to track all of our emails, and we moved it over to HubSpot because now we can afford it. But when I first started out, it was really, really large Excel spreadsheets, and you know what? It still worked. And at the holiday season, let me tell you something, everybody who contacted me that year was on that spreadsheet, and I would send out a little note saying, hey, have a happy holiday and blessings with your family and all too. I cannot tell you how many people would respond, thanks so much, it was so great to meet you this year, we should definitely touch base beginning of the year, and blah, blah, blah. Now, I didn't get, if I probably had like 4,000 people on those emails, right? I probably got 50 people that wrote back that said that, but of that 50, I got 10 new clients. So sometimes, yeah, it's a lot of work, but sometimes you have to do all those things before you have these big processes and technology in play. And you have to be just creative out of the box, but always be a resource. And I still do that. A lot of my clients, I'm trying to like hook them. You know, I'll be like, hey, I'm so sorry, we've been playing phone tag, but you know what? I know we were talking about this topic the other day. I thought you'd like this. And then they write back like, hey, thanks for doing that. Thanks for thinking of me. I asked for nothing in return, but the fact that I thought of them, if something we talked about, I remembered, and they remembered that the fact that I'm looking out for them. So it really does help. I hope that helps a little bit, Allison. Okay. Those are the questions today, guys, that have come through. And so I just, love to say thanks for joining us today. And I don't talk to you, have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family. I will let you know more about the vaccine mandates and all too. That's over 100 employees down the road and all too, but something to think about, even though there's talk that it might not pass the Supreme Court. So we'll see what happens with all that, but by all means, if you need anything, reach out to me. It's just MO'Connor@tocgrp.com. And again, have a wonderful holiday, and keep the faith. You are here, you are listening to this because you want to do something and make your business grow. And darn it, you are doing it. And so stick together with people that really understand where you're at. We are all here to support you. It's going to be good days and the bad days, but you better believe it. The good outweighs the bad any day. All right, take care, guys. Talk soon. Bye.